Welcome to the Big Kickoff Football Show with Mr. Neil Dobbs, David Bugle and myself, Roy Shanahan. Now, the game of football has gone to shite and Mr. Klopp has told us all about it. And if we want to go and watch wrestling, go elsewhere. So, Dave, is it really that bad?
No, absolutely not. Let's be honest. We had a quick chat off air because I was unsure because I didn't see it. And yesterday, as I said, apart from one where it was a tiny bit of wrestling where one of the players kind of literally just picked up one of the lads and got him out of the way, but it was nothing sinister. And as Neil said, there was a Chris Wood incident with Matip, but I didn't notice anything, and it was Burnley being Burnley, and if like the fact that there was no bookings was the only thing that was a bit surprising, especially in any Premier League game with the way it goes nowadays with the play acting. But if this is a bit of a battle back against play acting, I'm all for it, because I think the word is they're trying to stay away from the trivial decisions. Like, for example, where there's a bit of a shoulder and all of a sudden the fella drops down with the face, they kind of are leaving it go. I don't know if they're going to trust VAR or to back them up behind it and go, listen, let me know. It looks like they're trying to calm me here, but let me know. Because I just want to go back to last week where I thought this is where it's going to come good, was actually with Mo Salah. It was a blatant dive I nearly said Noel Cantwell. What's his name? Todd Cantwell, where it was about hip height. He took a touch, and as soon as he took the touch, he dived in the box. Ref waved it on. Brilliant. But I would have gone straight to VAR and said, I've not given a penalty, but let me know it's a blatant dive. I'm going to go back and book him. And he didn't. So that was a bit disappointing. And that's what I'd like to see, because I'll be honest, we have to bring up Solskjaer is a bit aggrieved, obviously, for their goal today, because he thought, is this the new rules where they're letting some of these challenges go, where you're unsure whether the guy actually stopped the ball dead and it went backwards, but kind of left a bit on Fernandes. Fernandes got up just as quick to moan about not getting the free anyway. But I didn't see it live. I didn't see it till the end of the game because I only seen the second half. And ironically, United got a counter-attack from a similar challenge. And I actually said it straight away. Oh, if that had been Fernandes, they'd have got it. And I genuinely said that out loud. So I have to apologise to the ref, because he obviously at least he was consistent for the 90 minutes, because I didn't see it until after the game. So they're giving it the big one about protecting players and injuries and this, that, and the other. This isn't gonna advertise players to start going knee height and kicking them up the arse and kicking them from behind. It's just the ones where you're grabbing your face, where there's a bit of a hands on the chest and they stop and go back. That's what it's going to get rid of, in my opinion. If somebody does something like what I've just said, they're going to get their just rewards. Let's be honest. But it's typical managers now laying their stall out, and it's us against them, in my opinion, against the refs, as usual.
Neil, do you think that the likes of Klopp and Solskjaer are putting this forward so early in the season because they may feel that teams of not the same standard may get a level playing field by, let's put the tackle in a little bit harder and put these star players off?
Yeah, I think, look, the last time Klopp kind of had, I won't say an outburst, but a view like this was on the substitution rule, that he wanted an extra few substitutions. So Klopp is no fool. Look, he understands what gives him an advantage and what gives him a disadvantage. And if you're letting, players kind of rough up the Liverpool stars or get, stuck into your Mo Salahs and these guys, it is going to go against you in some way or form. He might come out with the ball maybe 2-3 times less, which is another turnover, or it might allow, Salah maybe to get, as David saying, less free kicks, less penalties. So from Klopp's perspective, I think he's getting out ahead of the rat race here, and he's kind of trying to make a stand. I think it's clever because, let's be honest, people listen to him. Same thing with the substitution rules that went on in the debate. But I think he's just trying to get out ahead of everybody else and kind of lay down a marker. The last time he did this as well, he was giving out about a certain club getting too many penalties, and then lo and behold, the penalties dried up. So, this is like an old Alex Ferguson special, isn't it? You come out and you moan there wasn't enough time, or whatever you would say. The colour of the jerseys can't be seen the other side of the stadium. So, it's just gamesmanship. But I understand where he's coming from. He might have a little bit of a point in some regard. The Burnleys of this world, that's just the way they play. They like to rough you up. They're different than everybody else. They're an old throwback to the kind of Wimbledon, Stoke, that type of area where, let's be honest, they have to play to their strengths. So I understand where Sean Dyche was coming from yesterday, but for Klopp, I think it's just he's making sure that, maybe before it goes to the next level and there are more maybe serious challenges made or harder challenges made, he's just getting his view out there.
And he probably, sorry, Roy, and he's probably made it when they win, so it doesn't come across as sour grapes than if they had a loss yesterday. So he's probably, as you said, getting out a warning shot now while things are looking good for Liverpool, you know?
Yeah. Dave, when you look at the two games I see in both games, I didn't see anything in the games that were vicious or over the top or anything like that. They may have had a decision that they didn't agree with, but sure, that's no different than any other week. So we're kind of happy that there's a little bit, a foul is a foul, and that has never changed. What this is trying to eradicate is the nonsense of the diving and the rolling around, isn't it?
Yeah, like, you know, the stereotypical where a winger will start to get a run on the defender and they barely even get a chance to put their arm out. And once it hits the chest, they step back and they do all. And they usually get them frees. I think they're trying to get rid of crap like that instead of, or as you say, the grabbing the face and hitting the ground straight away. All that kind of stuff. I can't see this bringing in the 2-footers back, or you're kicking them up the air. You know, that real physical element of it, the way it used to be. It's never going to be that game ever again. But it just might mean a little bit of strength might come back into it now, that you can kind of have your bit of a jostle, have a bit of a shoulder, because there was a good shoulder like on Alexander. Another year, another day, that would have been given as a penalty. But back in our time when we were growing up, that was a cracking shoulder, you know. So does that element come back in? I'd be all for it. But like, when I seen it yesterday, I got nervous. But then when he let it go, I was delighted. But it's not going to get silly. Players are going to get injured no matter what. They're finely tuned athletes. All they have to do is one good sprint and they tweak something now. They're just perfect specimens. No, I can't see anything ridiculous going to be coming from this. If somebody's wild, they're going to get their just rewards, in my opinion, and get their deserved punishment. But I'd be more for this because it means every team has them. So I'm only going to list a few. But your Kanes and your Salahs and your Fernandezes aren't going to get the frees the way they used to, as easy as that. It's as simple as that.
We're not going to talk about the United game just now, but we'll just talk about that incident in it, the Fernandez one, where it led to the goal. My initial thought was it was a free. When I look back at it, I still think it was a free. I think he barged into him, then got his leg around the ball.
Yeah.
But what I am happy to see is now this might change the likes of Fernandez, who, when that ball came into him, he was ready to look for this foul. And he wasn't being strong and standing up and protecting the ball. He was ready to look for this foul, and he was putting it all on that moment. If he got his foul, then we turn around and he jog up the pitch. He didn't get it now. Now he's going to have to start playing football again and not think, oh, well, I'm going to get a foul every time someone comes near me now.
And he was obviously expecting it because he got up so fast to complain that he didn't get it, you know?
He didn't even put his body in front to protect the ball. You know, he kind of was loose about himself. So I'm kind of delighted that kind of happened. Listen, you know, I love a 50-50 ball. I was fretting for football that these kind of challenges and the physical element of football was going out. I'm delighted to see it coming back. I still think that was a free, but I'm delighted that now players are going to have to start, you know, thinking about the physicality of football again. So, Neil, we'll go on from that. I think we'll all agree that Klopp and Solskjaer are talking absolute nonsense here and just looking to benefit themselves. We'll talk about Liverpool, Neil. And I suppose when you look at Liverpool now, they're looking a bit more solid now with the likes of Van Dijk and Matip in the back. And you can see that solidness is just spreading throughout the team now again.
Yeah, listen, Van Dijk, before Van Dijk was there, like David tell you used to be watching the last 10, 15 minutes of games from behind the couch. You're just afraid of your life of a set piece, a free kick, corner, and inevitably, you know, your Woffords and these guys will be coming away from Anfield taking points off you. So Van Dijk stopped all that. That kind of all died when he arrived. You missed him last year. He's obviously has a bigger impact than just on the pitch. He's a bigger impact on the team, on the morale, and maybe even on the expectation of them players. But Liverpool definitely have come out of the blocks on fire now this year. There's no big signings come in. If anything, they've reinforced contracts for all the stars that, you know, have been there and given it everything the last 2 to 3 years, all the high-profile ones. They've quietly gone about that business. Next step now is for Liverpool is to mount a 5, 6, 7 game winning streak like they did 2 years ago. So we were saying this a couple of weeks ago. Can Liverpool get back to where they were 2 years ago? You're nearly writing off a whole season last year. And based on the first 2 games, it's exciting to see the kind of the guile that they're going at teams, the attacking. I think Klopp has tweaked his forward line a little bit, not just with Jota. You found Mane popping up in the hole an awful lot yesterday as well. He's coming in off the wing, which he never really did in the previous 2 years. So I think they've evolved. And obviously then having Virgil at the back then gives you that extra stability and confidence to get out of the back line and then to keep that high line that they keep playing.
Yeah. Dave, Norwich, or not Norwich, Jesus.
Yeah, that was last week.
Yeah, that was last week. When you look at Liverpool and you look at up front, and Firmino again not making it in. I put it to you last week, was this kind of an acknowledgement here that Firmino was going to have to step up to the plate, and Klopp kind of starting to look that way?
Yeah, very much so. Like Jota, I think it was Pep Linders, the number 2, just said the guy was on fire at pre-season, and Liverpool don't really give off too many big praises to a single player. It's all very much a collective and a team. So to see a quote like that coming out in pre-season was telling for me. Obviously, he's played. He's got his couple of goals. You know, Firmino is a cracking player, as we all know, and is a great link man for the two guys. But his goal output has been diminishing, and as I said, he misses the easy ones. I think compared to what you want to see right in the middle. I think he gets the good ones, but misses the easy ones anyway. So I think he's going to have to be potentially the squad player, the bit part player, the guy who will come in for the odd, depending on who you get in the Champions League draw, the League Cups coming up, FA Cups. He could be the 25, 30 game a season kind of guy, and obviously be the backup along with Origi, if providing he's sticking around. And that's what it looks like. But going back to Neil as well, in relation to the forward play, the kind of another good thing that Van Dijk does is that long ball, that diagonal ball. Very accurate, very sweet. And we got a goal from it yesterday where it went straight out to Elliott into Arnold. It was like 2 touches, literally long field ball, touch, pass, bang, and it was in. Liverpool missed that last year. We were very slow, as we said many a time last year, very easy to pick off and just very slow in the build-up and everything we did, because your Elliots and Williams and Fabinhos of this world just hadn't got that kind of long field ball / kind of diagonal pass that could just get them over the midfield and into the attack, and with more space for the front three. So that element of it was very interesting to see back as well, which is great, because as Neil's put up there with Harvey Elliott, we had a midfield three yesterday, which you wouldn't be too intimidated by if you were Burnley. And they were fairly accomplished. It was good to see Henderson back doing what he does best. I know he was sitting in the hole a bit, and then Elliott looked solid. He's definitely probably jumped a couple of places in the charts ahead of the likes of potentially Oxlade-Chamberlain, even the likes of Milner, and like he's potentially the 4th man, I'd say, because I think Thiago will sneak back in potentially with Fabinho and Henderson as the main three, but I think Elliott could really be the 4th man to kind of get in there. And then if that happens, you can imagine he's the next one on the hype train, but I hope not for Liverpool's sake. But they'll jump on it. He's only 17, and he looks decent. And he was a winger, so it'll be interesting to see how he keeps this going. If he can keep this level of consistency, I'd be delighted. But as long as the English media leave him alone.
Yeah. Well, Neil, we know the answer to that. The English media won't leave him alone. Harvey Elliott, Phil Foden, Mason Mount. You always get a young player coming through, and they'll always build them up as much as they can. And you just hope that they can reach some of that potential, because if they don't, they'll absolutely devour them as well. So that's just the way it is over there. But Neil, when you look at Harvey Elliott, can you see him making that progression? Can you see that type of player that will sort of edge his way in? Because if you look at Thiago, in all fairness, he has to start doing something to make it his place, because he hasn't done that yet. Yeah,
so I mean, for Elliott, I think he needs the kind of mentorship that, say, Pep brought in with Foden. Remember, he had him in the side, played 4 or 5 games, and then he was missing. Then he brought him back in, and he always kind of knew his place when he was going to be a first-team starter. And it's only really last year that Foden came to the fore and he really began to kick on. So I think Klopp is clever enough. Home game, big crowd. You know, Burnley aren't, renowned for playing the ball through midfield. So I think he allows himself the luxury of a playmaking midfielder, which maybe on other games, like Chelsea next week, I can't see Elliott starting. He just needs the right mentorship, a guy that's going to bring him in when he's on a high, keep playing him like he did with Alexander-Arnold. put his arm around them and really give them the confidence. But what a debut in front of the home fans, and for Klopp to go in there, put him in ahead of Jones, put him in ahead of Thiago, that is massive. That is absolutely massive, and it speaks volumes, because Klopp has not been afraid in the past of leaving guys out. Like, I remember Joe Gomez came in, and the English media made a big deal that Gomez has to be the centre-back pairing with Harry Maguire. And it was one bad Champions League game, and he was on the back burner for 5 more weeks. So I think Klopp's no fool like that. He knows what he's doing here. It's not a gamble by any stretch of the imagination. The kid clearly has something at that age, be playing in a team like Liverpool. So it'll be exciting to see kind of where he goes from here and how much game time he gets. But as Dave said, he's kicked on this year, and he's all of a sudden in the pecking order ahead of Curtis Jones. The next step then is to go after Thiago's position. And let's be honest, lads, Thiago's been underwhelming since he's joined. I think he a couple of good run of games near the end of last year when Liverpool were going for that kind of fourth spot. But he's flattering to deceive. And in fairness, you look at him even for Spain in the Euros, he can't even break into the Spain squad, which is odd or doesn't get at least an extra half hour, 40 minutes than you think he might have. So maybe it hasn't quite lit yet for Thiago, but again, do you give him another few months to see how he goes? We'll wait and see.
Yeah, I think it's a good show. I think he'll be dropping in and dropping out with Elias, and Thiago's experience is going to come to the fold throughout the year. But positives for Liverpool really, and 6 points out of 6. You can't ask for too much more. Dave, we'll go on to Manchester United, who today drew 1-1 with Southampton, a Southampton team that have been selling players left, right and centre. A Manchester United team who have been buying players to challenge for the league. 1-1. And when you look at the team, there's something that it bothers me about the team. First of all, Martial started up centre forward. That's going to bother me every day of the week because he's not a centre forward. But the other side, Dave, is, and it was just what Tuchel said today about Lukaku. He says, we didn't spend that type of money to put him on the bench. And Manchester United had Varane and Sancho on the bench. They had Martial up front, and they're talking about Greenwood as a centre forward, and they're not putting him in there. There's, Lindelof is a decent defender, but there's mistakes in him, and you do not want, and you cannot challenge at the top if you have a defender who's going to give opportunities away, more often than not, or, on every 5 games or whatever. You need 2 solid centre-backs.
Yeah.
Is this a mistake by Solskjaer, or, is he trying to play it too cool? What do you think?
Yeah, potentially trying to play it too cool, I'd imagine. Like, Sancho is a bit of a weird one in the sense that they've been after him for 2 years, like obsessed with him. Do you know what I mean? And the fact that they're only using him sparingly, it scratches my head and made me, how involved is Solskjaer in these bloody transfers? Because I don't get it. And Greenwood, I'm sick of, like, I'm not a United fan, and I respect most of them, but I'm sick of hearing him about being out wide. He's a striker, lads, all day long. He's a centre forward, and I think he's a fox in the box type of player. I think he's that guy that just goes into the right area. He's just that guy who will just naturally be in that place where you scratch your head going, what is he doing there? And then the ball's just a magnet to him. I know it was a bit of a fortuitous goal. McCarthy kind of was already on the ground before it came. It was like a slow ball in cricket, as they said, that caught him on the hop, but he was still where he needs to be. I think he's a very good finisher. So I think him and Cavani should be kind of the rotation, so to speak. And Martial, put him out left if you're actually going to play him. So for me, I'm a bit confused about where he's going with it. I really don't get it. I think with Varane, maybe he's a little bit early, just maybe a little bit early for him. But at the same time, Matic even started today instead of McTominay. That made me scratch my head as well. Like the pedestrian in the, like, I only seen the second half and they looked sharp. They got the goal and they looked sharp, and I was like, here we go, they'll steamroll. And then it was like, I don't know whether it's a slow pre-season for them or whatever, but they just died. After about 70 minutes, they just died. Southampton got back into the game, and potentially if anyone was going to win, it was them. And Armstrong had a cracking chance to put it away, but just unfortunately couldn't finish it. But, maybe I'll just give them a little bit of slack. The fact that they literally were finished after about 65, 70 minutes, maybe pre-season they came in late or they're not as fit as they should be. and maybe that's why they're being as slow as what they are. I don't know, but it's not, as you said, it's bang on the money. You don't spend that money and then just let them sit there on the bench. You need to improve your side to get to the very top and upend the likes of your Man Cities, Liverpools and Chelsea this work. The Liverpool are back in there now as well. You need to make your statement. I thought, let's face it, Leeds suits them. So we write that one off. It's a bit like City beating Norwich. You write them off. They happen. And this was potentially the day of the statement, and very unimpressive.
Yeah. I watched the whole game. I seen the start. The start, they started off flying. They could have had a couple of goals in the first half. But I just feel that I felt that it looked like once there was, I think if when you play in the game and you got 15 minutes into the game, you kind of have a feel of you can win this game, or this is going to be a tough game, or geez, we're up against it. And in this game, Manchester United looked like they were playing after 15 minutes, like they knew that this game could be in the bag if they played to their best potential. I counted, Neil, 3 times in the game that Manchester United players got the ball and started walking with it. A cockiness of walking with the ball. That's 3 times in the game. And this is when they were at 1-1, I believe, or 1-0 down. It started the second half. And I'm thinking, okay, listen, you haven't done anything here. You haven't done anything to sort of have that cockiness about you. If you're 4 or 5-0 up and you're Man City against Norwich, yeah, you go and do that. But you haven't got that result. And it turns out they hadn't got that result in the end. I think there was a little bit, I think the team selection with Martial up front, Martial's not a centre forward. Greenwood should be in there. I'm not so sure with David if Greenwood is ready for that position, but I think he's a hell of a lot more ready than Martial is, and I would have had him in there. Sancho has to be there all day long. He barely played in the Euros. He's back training a while. He played last week. Surely that's sort of been his game to start. So I do think that there's something not right there, and it's an inconsistency that's seeing United not challenge last year.
Yeah, so look, if I discussed this already, like what can stand against Man United? So they're after adding Sancho, they've added Varane, and we said they've added 2 players that will go into their first 11, and they've added quality. So that's, you think to yourself, good news, good business. But I think there's a double-edged sword with United from last year. I think United ran themselves into the ground last year. I think he's ran Rashford and they ran Fernandes into the ground. Is this something that he's thinking to himself, I want to have times where I'm changing the team or keeping the team fresher? That could be a kind of an excuse. But to be brutally honest with you, I think the whole thing reeks of going away and thinking the job is done before the job is done. Starting Matic, I just don't understand. Why would you not drop Pogba back there? Does Van de Beek play for the club anymore? Why did they not get rid of him? Can they not get rid of him? And then Martial up front, who's like the forgotten man. It reeks of a little bit of unprofessionalism almost away. You know yourself, when you think you're going to go out and do a number on a team and you start kind of switching players around at any level, let alone the top level, it just sends out the wrong message. And maybe the message in the dressing room wasn't one where they were going to go out and ram it home. And then all of a sudden, as you said, after 15, 20 minutes, they realised we're in a game here, and then you can't get yourself going, and then the right personnel aren't on the field. I'm very surprised even Lingard come off the bench. Again, reeks of desperation almost. They don't want them. They didn't get the proper price tag, and now they do want them. So they need to iron that out right if they want to challenge this year. Man United have to hit 10 wins in a row, 15 wins in a row. These are the standards that City set last year and Liverpool set the season before. And maybe, look, we could be premature. Last week, they were world beaters. This week, they've come down to the world with a bang. So, that's what they need to do in order to compete. And I think this year, your Chelseas, your Cities, your Liverpools are really going to test how good they are over a long period of time.
Is that just a question to you, maybe, Roy? Is there an element of, is this Ollie trying to show himself off more so? That he, like his coaching capabilities to be a bit clever with his play? With the team he picks, is it him trying to show up himself off because it's always about Tuchel and Klopp and Guardiola, and Ollie's still the rookie that everyone says he is?
I think, it's a little bit about, look, I make the decisions here. I'm the boss. You'll play when I tell you to play. Be a bit clever and rotating the squad. The fact of the matter is, you can't rotate the squad if the squad wasn't good enough last year to play your best 11. If Sancho, he believes, is your best 11, he should have started there today. I'm going to say about Sancho, I still haven't seen what in the Euros, I still haven't seen in those two runs he's got for Manchester United what the big deal is about him. I'm waiting for it. I really hope he is, but I haven't seen it yet. And he just seems to, he'll have a little dribble and then he'll turn back and he'll pass the ball. And, he got so many assists and goals over in Germany. But again, the standard over in Germany, it's a lower level. It's completely lower level. So I really hope he does. I hope he proves me wrong. Not proves me wrong, shows what he can do. But at the moment, I'm not seeing that. But I'm not going to see that if he's not playing. Varane, I don't get it. That's too early for him either. You've got Victor Lindelof. If he can only play 60 minutes, he comes off, you put Lindelof on. That's it. If he can play longer, great. He's your Rolls Royce. That's all we heard for the whole week on Sky Sports and Solskjaer talking about him. He's your Rolls Royce. Well, Rolls Royce goes out and he plays and he doesn't bother about it. Harry Maguire comes in, he just plays. He doesn't. There's no bothered about it. So I wholeheartedly agree. I think he was trying to be, as cool as you can be, as cool as a cat, but I think he kind of messed up a little bit. And just one other thing on that, Dave, against some teams that sit back, Manchester United find it very, very hard unless they have a centre forward like Cavani and get that ball and whip it in. If they don't have someone like that, Manchester United fall apart. They just can't break teams down. And this is why I said at the start of the season, they need to get a centre forward in. And people were saying, no, Cavani's going to be there. So he's going to be missing the first few games. Oh, yeah, but he'll be back then. Yeah, but what if he gets injured then? Then all of a sudden, then you've only got one way of playing, is counter-attack. And if the other team is a counter-attacking team, you're knackered. So I firmly believe you need another centre forward up there who can do the same sort of job that Cavani does. And Greenwood doesn't do that. And I don't think they're going to deliver balls into Greenwood. So that's my gripe with Manchester United. And we'll see how they get on. It's 2 points dropped. It's not the end of the world. You can see the other teams dropping points and blah. It's only the start of the season. But I just didn't like that, the way the message was. Put your strongest team out. We haven't got to midweek games yet, so just get them out and play. You can substitute.
There's an international break coming up as well, so there's
so I don't get it. I think it was a mistake today. Okay, we'll talk about Arsenal and Chelsea, Neil. I just want to talk about Lukaku starting off. He was absolutely excellent today, a real centre forward. What a centre forward's about, and he really bullied that Arsenal backline, didn't he?
Yeah, look, that's what Lukaku's all about, isn't he? You unleash him at times. He's a big physical human being. I mean, we're talking about the WWE wrestling style earlier on. The only person bigger than him in the Premier League now is Adama Traore. So there's a battle of the heavyweights. But Lukaku is tailor-made to go up against what I'd nearly call a makeshift Arsenal defence. Ben White was out because he had COVID, and Lukaku absolutely tore him asunder. What a great piece of business. I know you spend 100 million on him. You can say whatever you like. But just to reiterate the point you just made there, right? Man United pre-season needed a striker. I thought they needed a striker. I was saying break the bank for a Harry Kane. Chelsea didn't even bat an eyelid. They literally went, we're never getting Kane. Okay, who's the best? And Dave, you alluded to a couple of weeks ago, we're not saying Lukaku is world-class top bracket, but he's the next best. Chelsea secured him, and that could be like the most pivotal piece of business that they'll do all year, is getting a guy that will get you goals. Chelsea haven't had a guy like that in a while. Like when you're upgrading Tammy Abraham for Lukaku, that is absolutely massive. Great piece of business. And the proof is in the pudding today. He very lucky not to get 2 or 3. The keeper Leno took off a great save from the header there in the second half. But great start from for Chelsea, and you can see him getting 20 plus goals this year, no problem.
Absolutely. I forgot to say good evening, John Light, who's watching in. Thanks very much for your comments. Anyone wants to comment on anything that happened at the weekend, do throw your comments in and we'll discuss them. Dave, Arsenal, Arsenal have gone out and spent more than any other Premier League club, but are they good signings?
No.
I knew that answer already. I was excited to hear it.
And I was like, yeah, don't ask me to elaborate. Just no. It was just another Arsenal game where you're like, what are you doing? What's changed? Nothing. And Chelsea Chelsea were good, but they could have just won it in second gear. They didn't have to do anything. Lukaku, it's a dream debut against like how he put Mari on his arse. It was just a joy to watch that. It was just great play for him. He got up too close, the quick 1-2, and he smelled blood and he was gone. And Mari's on the ground. Yeah. Xhaka, even at the end, he just looked lost, going, yeah, I should have taken that 20 grand a week reduction and gone to Roma, because let's face it, that's the only reason why he's still there. He's probably on more money, but he's probably gone, yeah, I should have gone and stop being so greedy. Rats in a sinking ship. I'd say there'll be one or two now who'd love to get out before the end of this this transfer window, because I don't see where's the recovery. Aubameyang again, toothless, just across the board. Poor Martinelli is a hot prospect up and coming, and with the wrong club by the looks of it. What's he going to learn? I just don't know where to go with Arsenal. I've no sympathy for Arteta. I've no sympathy for the board. I just don't get them. I don't get them. And obviously we mentioned it, Edu, the other week, and of course he's on his hollybob. So that says it all. Like, that literally says it all. That's how important Arsenal are to the people in the powers that be.
Yeah, Neil, Odegaard. They're getting Odegaard back in, 30 million. Real Madrid must be laughing. I'm not sure what the hell that's all about, because he didn't do much, did he?
Idiot.
No, it's
like
it's
in
real...
last season, 6 months. How did he get that 30 million switch? It's unbelievable, really.
Yeah, do you know what it is? Arsenal's expectations have just fallen. They really have just fallen. Like, again, we did mention on the show last week, you have Smith Rowe, you have Saka, Martinelli. They're like the future of the club, guys. Kids that are fearless, to go out and play with a bit of heart, determination. And then your old pros are an absolute disgrace. They can't even defend properly. They can't defend as a unit. As Dave is saying, there's Xhaka and a few of these guys. These are the guys you count on the spine of your team. And yeah, the likes of Smith Rowe and these guys are outplaying them every single week and getting what little accolades there are. But at least they're getting respect to the fans, the people that are watching it. You can just see it a mile away. Odegaard last year was a decent player. He's kind of like Coutinho-esque, where he used to drift in and out of games, come up with a piece of brilliance, and then you thought,
Neil, I have to cut you off there. He's not Coutinho-esque. Coutinho scored goals. Coutinho contributed to the team. Odegaard is just another Ozil who gets on the ball. He'll do something maybe a little bit, but drips in and out of the game. He's not doing anything for them. He's not going to drag a team on.
I meant kind of more positional wise. He was popping in that little.
All right, yeah, he plays the same position. Okay,
I don't mean he has the same. Well, you could argue he hasn't got the quality either, but he flattered to deceive, and you were looking at him game after game, and there was a desperation even coming near the end of last season where people are saying you got to sign this guy up, and you're like, surely you can do better, surely you can produce better, surely you have better than your academy, and the three lads I mentioned all look better players. They all look Premier League players. And there's Nicola Pepe and all these lads that are earning a criminal wage at Arsenal that aren't even trying to leg your Williams. It's just a mess. And Arsenal's biggest problem now is that they've a bloated wage bill. They've got guys that are sitting on the fence. Aubameyang is probably the number one guy who was on fire literally to the moment he signed that contract extension, and then just imploded. And that's, for me, would leave the worst taste in your mouth.
Like, Arsenal have gone down the route that I said that a few of the big teams do. Like, they kind of buy a name, like Chelsea players like your Williams and Luiz. But even Amartey, he was coming in with a lot of promise from Atletico Madrid, but it was probably more because he was from Atletico Madrid. And then you hear everyone waxing lyrical about how brilliant the likes of Ndidi is at Leicester, Basuma, Decore, and all these. And like, these are around, and they're around before. Like, they've kind of gone for the big names, the big clubs. Lazy. This is Edu, I'd say. Just lazy. I'll go to people who I know instead of actually doing your job and finding the talent that's out there for half the price. And then you can sell them on. It's just baffling how it's gone about, how they've gone about it. And there's Odegaard. Oh, let's go to Real Madrid instead of making the likes of your Smith Rose blossom. Like that's basically, he's going to step on his toes, in my opinion. You need to get somebody in the spine in there to push the likes of your Xhaka and Amartey out of the way and say, you're dead wood and I'm taking over and I'm running this show for the like your Smith Rose and Sakas to get on the ball and show their promise. Odegaard's not going to do that. He's going to just get in there in the mix, and it's another player that they kind of already have, in my opinion.
Yeah, but their first 11 today. Sorry, Roy. Their first 11 was like shocking. Lokonga, Xhaka, You have Pepe who goes missing. Then you have the three young lads, Mari, Holding. Like, that's actually a very, very poor team, in particular in defence. They were never going to get anything out of that game.
But Neil, it's never going to get any better for them because they don't have much better. Obviously, Ben White will come in. I think he's going to be a good player for them. I know they highlighted him, but that's what they do in these situations, you know. But I think Ben White will be good. But it shows you that you need to be getting two centre backs in, because if one's out, then you're really badly struggling. It's a bit like, you know, Manchester United don't have Cavani. They're badly struggling. You need two. Yeah. So, and with Ramsdale coming in, I don't see that helping much more because, you know, is he worth 30 million, 24, 25, whatever it is? Is he going to do much more than the rest? I'm not too sure. So, relegation possibilities still there. We could be talking
never say never.
Especially, I think they have, is it City next week?
Oh
yeah.
Oh yeah, you're not expecting them to move out of that bottom three next week, so it'll be interesting. Now, Billy Keaton has sent us. We were going to discuss this, but he has discussed this question here: will Ronaldo play with Messi at PSG? and Dave, this is kind of goes along with what you wanted to talk about earlier on.
Yeah, so he asked, he requested. Now, I think it was just more press, just trying to stoke the fire, but apparently he did request to play on the bench today. He came on. I didn't see the end result. He came on at about 2-2. 2-2. There was 2-1 there you go. They're already worse. They were 2-1 up when he came on. They were winning 2-1. So yeah, get rid of him. But yeah, he asked to be on the bench, and of course, everyone jumped on it like wildfire. Oh, this is it. It's gonna happen. He's gonna move. He's gonna go on to something else. There's been rumors all summer. I said it is one of the great rumors. The same truck that came with all his cars to Turin came during the summer to take them away. So he's obviously gonna go. So it's just gonna bang that drum again where he's gonna go. And obviously, with potentially PSG, it'll be just ridiculous Harlem Globetrotter stuff. I still think PSG would be foolish. I think it'd turn into a soap opera and not in a good way. Let him go to America. Let him still get the plaudits that he wants, because I think I'll say I'm not going to bore you with all the stats, but he will not improve a team at this stage anymore. He'll stay improved, but he will not improve a team anymore unless he goes to mid-table.
So the players that were on the bench for Juventus this weekend was Chiellini, Ronaldo, Chiesa are the three players, and they all came on during the game. So, you know, maybe there's a little bit of getting your fitness back together and what have you. Maybe it's not the push and the move. But Neil, there's a lot of talk with, of course, Arsenal helping Real Madrid out and giving them money for nothing. They've built up something like 250 million in transfer fees, Real Madrid, and there's talk about trying to get Mbappe this week. If that does happen, then there is a gap, and PSG would look like someone who would look to get Ronaldo in as a centre forward. He'd breeze through in Ligue 1, and the Champions League, he still does score goals.
Yeah, look, as Dave said there, it's a risk signing Ronaldo because you have to change your whole way of playing. You can't play, you know, PSG, if you watch them in the Champions League, they were breakneck on the counter attack. Would Ronaldo sue when he's not working as hard as everyone else? I always say Angel Di Maria plays for Paris Saint-Germain and he goes around with a jetpack on his back. He doesn't, you know, he flies. He wouldn't be my most favorite player in the world, but he gives 100% to the cause. Even Neymar tracks back and helps for Paris Saint-Germain. Ronaldo does not have that in his makeup. He's a different player. You need to set your team up differently. It reminds me a little bit at the moment of Portugal when you watch them in the Euros. They tried to fit too many players, too many stars, mainly the forwards, all into the first 11, and it didn't work, and it spectacularly imploded on them. So there's only so many of these guys you can fit in at Paris Saint-Germain. You need to prioritise. That said, if they lose,
you'd want to see him with Messi, though, wouldn't you?
Oh, you would.
Can you not see Neil? Can you not see Neymar or Ronaldo as centre forward, Neymar to the left, Messi to the right? And does Ronaldo need to defend? You know, in that scenario.
Maybe he doesn't, but he's still a luxury player. Does he have it? And do you put him still in the same bracket? I don't think I do anymore. As your Mbappe's, as your Neymars, these guys are taking it forward now. You know, Ronaldo's playing in the Italian league and they've done very little in the Champions League in the last 2 years other than kind of huff and puff. Would I think it would look brilliant and would it be spectacular? Yes. But if I were Paris Saint-Germain, I certainly would not be offloading Mbappe in any way, shape, or form, in particular to bring in Ronaldo, who, let's be honest, you get another year out of him at that level.
It depends how much Mbappe, Dave, is pushing for a move. So if he is pushing for a move, would you like to have Icardi up front, or would you like to have Ronaldo up front?
Oh, Ronaldo. Just for that alone, like,
that's what I'm saying.
Like, as much as I say he shouldn't go if you had Mbappe and Neymar and Messi, in my opinion. Like, how are you going to fit all four of them in there? It'd be fun to watch it. But to be honest, it'd be fun to watch Messi and Ronaldo. Will they play for each other? Will they complement each other? Oh, Messi's got 5 goals. I've only got 1. All of a sudden, Ronaldo stops playing, or the other way around. Did the egos kind of bounce off each other? Like, just for that alone, you'd love to see it. And we'd all start watching some French football. Unfortunately, that's the problem. We'd all end up starting watching French football. But
who take the penalties and the free kicks?
Could you imagine there'd be a little wrestle?
Rock, paper, scissors.
Rock, paper, scissors. You know? So for that alone, I'd love to see it. But for the current lineup, I'd leave it as is. But yeah, if Mbappe is going, and it's probably the last big hurrah for Real Madrid to really solidify, potentially trying to stay one step ahead of Barcelona, because I watched a bit of their game against Athletic Bilbao last night, and you know, they're just not the same. You can see it. They're decent.
And that's what I'm saying. They definitely need someone in, don't they?
Yeah,
they need to bring life to the club again.
Yeah, so if Madrid can get their hands on an Mbappe, that'll put them a step ahead of Barcelona probably for the next couple of years, the way things are going. So if they can pull it off, I would suggest they would 100%. Whether Mbappe will kind of regret the move, maybe, who knows? But if I was Real Madrid, certainly, if you can get your hands on somebody with that quality, do it.
Transfer week is going to be great with the speculation. So here's looking forward.
Sitting there doing nothing.
So let's get on to this one. Wolves today 0, Spurs 1. Spurs 6 points out of 6. Harry Kane comes on, Neil.
Yeah.
What's going to happen here? Because as much as he wants to push a move, not too many, and including Manchester City, yes, they put a second bid in, but they're not really pushing hard on this. And with Jesus, and we'll go on to talk about Man City now in a second, scoring a couple of goals. Jack Grealish is there. De Bruyne is to come in. They play the false 9. It's not really that big a deal for City, is it? As much as it is for Harry Kane.
Yeah, look, we said a few weeks ago, didn't we? They're going to secure Grealish, and then if they get Kane, it's a bonus, and what a bonus it would be. Obviously, I think if Kane was more a priority, I think they would have gone in more hell-bent for him earlier. In other words, the minute the Euros finished, they would have had the signature signed. So, again, we've said it many times. You're playing a dangerous game negotiating with Spurs. You're playing a dangerous game waiting on Daniel Levy, because the guy is like a chess master. He just waits and waits. So whether he's trying to just wring the towel out of every last drop and make him, you know, the world's most expensive player, or whatever way he wants to do it, he's going about it the right way. But the lack of kind of noise coming out, and the lack of the belief that it's happening, and even, you know, you're tuning into Sky Sports, you're getting the feeling even the pros, the ex-pros that are around, don't really believe that this move is now going to happen. And more so now that Kane has gone back and played, it's a little bit of a climb down, a little bit of a U-turn. Maybe if he'd have stayed out another week, maybe if he'd have dragged it out, but they don't seem to be making the right noises. And then the rumours is that his agent, which is his brother, is off on beaches chilling out and not really doing the whole thing. They're talking of amateurism in that regard. So these things have a habit of falling down, and I'm delighted because I don't want City to get Harry Kane. Simple as that.
If I was his brother, I'd be all over this, because 10%, about 12.5, 13, 15 million. Get your arse up to Manchester, pal. You know,
I'm sure they want it. I'm sure they want it, but they just don't. It's Daniel Levy has
their meal ticket for life, and it's just incredible how pedestrians become.
He's on a 6-year contract. He ain't going anywhere if they don't want it.
If City don't want them, straight over to Paris to convince them that Ronaldo is too old and he's loved Paris since the club he's always wanted to be at. Robbie Keane. So it's an interesting one. But could the possibility be, Dave, that he ends up playing with Spurs this year? They've already started off relatively well, and maybe he's looking, well, maybe it wouldn't be the worst thing to stay for one more year with them.
Maybe, but this is the cruel potential of football. Haaland's up for grabs for half the price as what he is now next year, and all of a sudden Harry Hugh, and you're 36 and your career's over, you're a Spurs legend, and you look up at your cabinet and there's nothing in it. Maybe a few golden boots and that's it. And that'll be just beautiful. But no, but that's how cruel football can be. Like this is it. He is the hot ticket for, well, just City at the moment. And if it doesn't happen, there will be other suitors next year. There's no two ways about it. But who he would really like to go to mightn't be around next year. And all of a sudden City have Haaland instead and say, yeah, thank you and good night. So very, very interesting. Obviously, he could end up being a bit of a sharer, and staying with his boyhood club and not look back with regrets. But we all know, yeah, he wants to go. He some silly interview during the summer about a fee came up, and yeah, that's good money for Spurs. The way he was talking about, like it was already done, like 100 odd million. Like the guy was already gone. And obviously the play acting last week about whether he was isolating or whether he refused to go training. So he wants to go, and if it doesn't happen, the clubs that he could go to next year are maybe very easily mightn't be the same as they are now.
Yeah. Well, it might be good for Manchester United. They might get him on the cheap. Okay, so Neil, Manchester City. Listen, Manchester City versus Norwich. If that's not a Manchester City 5-0 victory, you've lost out, because I watched this game. I watched it as a whole, and Norwich were beaten before they even tipped off. They sat back. They were, hoping that they'd get a 0-0 out of this game. And 5-0. I don't even know why I didn't even bet on this one. 5-0 was nearly guaranteed.
Yeah, look, it reeked of one of them games, a bridge too far for Norwich before it even started. I seen actually one of the pre-match interviews, and it was all, if you can take points off City, you're doing well. It wasn't, can you win it? It was literally anything. And if you felt that they were saying almost, look, let's keep it in the 2 and the 3, and you can kind of walk away with your head held high. But City turned on the afterburners, way too much class. At one stage, they were playing with like 7 people up front nearly, because they were so confident they could hold on to the ball, move it from one wing to the other. Just too much muscle for them. And Norwich, kind of rolled over, which is a bit of a pity. But you can almost tell the minute that dressing room door closed, Norwich went, right, forget about all that.
Yeah, season starts next week.
You might have a winnable game next week. So you get them fixtures every now and then where the team is bet before they get off the bus.
Yeah. Dave, you were probably doing a little jig around the kitchen when you seen Jesus was playing and that he scored, and that this false 9 nonsense Barcelona made it work. You don't want to see it happening, and there's only ever been one.
He played out wide as well.
Huh?
And he played out wide and played quite well, so showing a bit of versatility. And Pep was full of praise for him afterwards, saying his parents should be proud and all this and whatever. If we ask him to be a sub, he's the best sub there is. We ask him to do this, he tries to be the best. He's filled them up full of praise. But he did it quite well. He making the old pretending to come short and then go long, and then the true ball was put in. Now, I'll be honest with you, God help Norwich, whatever money they have left, they need to buy some left backs, because I think they were subbed at half time and they were still shocking. Everything came down that side. They just got an awful time. And whatever fix they tried to do, it just seemed to make it worse. Everything was coming through.
They played 5 at the back, Dave.
Yeah, but not just the left back, it was the left centre back. The whole lot of them, it was like they never played together. It was a free for all with some of the goals. So as regards, we know who City are, but if you're going to come out after that and make bold statements, I wouldn't use that as a reference, because it was just a very stereotypical game. 5-0. It was open all hours, but City are still City, then there's no two ways about it. But I'm not going to make a bold statement just on what I've seen. Yes, it was just that's what they do every now and then. They're going to hammer somebody else 4 or 5-0 again. They do it every year, and they were just one of them teams. So I wouldn't get overly excited about last night in that sense. Next week, obviously, Arsenal probably not going to put up too much to them, so we're going to have to wait and see just how it's going to play out with this whole false 9, providing it stays that way with them. But there's and that's the only way we're going to really see the proof is in the pudding. We fully expect City to be the favourites at the minute, still are, but we just need to see a proper test for us to kind of solidify that.
Yeah. That's enough about City, because that was a handy 3 points. We've already given them the 3 points against Arsenal next week, so we'll talk about them the week after. Neil, when you look at Danny Ings, could he be the purchase of the summer? Because okay, great goal over the weekend, but he just gets you goals week after week, won't he?
Yeah, look, you're going to see the counterproductive side is what Southampton are like now without his goals as well. But I think very, very shrewd signing. Ings is one of these players that maybe had aspirations of getting up a little higher club-wise. Maybe he thought he could, come in as a number 2 for one of the top 5, top 6 clubs. But for Villa, I think shrewd signing. You don't have to rely on him game on game because you still have other guys that can play up there. But there's no doubt about it. Like in the last season and a half, 2 seasons, he's just been one of these guys that gets goals. And it doesn't matter who it's against, at the top teams, bottom teams. Danny Ings is a proper striker. He scores spectaculars, tap-ins, and then his goal the other day was absolutely fantastic. Overhead kick, or volley, half volley. But yeah, I think he could be a good sign. It'd be interesting his numbers at the end of this year. But for the money they paid for Villa, that's good money to spend. The Jack Grealish money on would be a sound investment in Danny Ings.
Yeah, absolutely. Dave, Willock has gone to Newcastle. That's probably going to be their only purchase. Is that going to be enough for them?
No, I don't think so. Defense. I still think they're weak at the back. I don't rate Lascelles and Schär and is it Fernandez. Like they're decent centre backs, but I don't think they've enough in the back line that's going to keep them. I think midfield can be a bit weak. Like they still look half decent when Maximan is on fire. Shelby's pinging in a few balls, and obviously Wilson is finishing. Like they've 1 or 2 players who can do stuff, but yeah, they need a little bit more. Willock will be interesting because this happens quite a bit. A person who kind of sets fire and gets plenty of interest, but will that fire still be in the belly now? There's a brand new contract. He'll probably feel he's the main man there, or one of the main men there. Will he prove it every week? Like that's what you need to do. Yeah, that was great for 6 months, but now what are you going to do with this season and the season after and the season after? And I'm not saying he's not going to, but that's what will be interesting. He is now going to be a go-to player for them who really needs to step up to the plate, and that's going to be an interesting one. I personally am unsure. I think he could be one of them, unfortunately, that, yeah, I've done what I've had to do, happy days, and move on. And we'll all go, Jesus, another flash in the pan, which happens quite often. I just don't think it's enough for them, really. I think they're going to struggle, and it looks like they're going to be down there. I just don't think they've enough. And in relation to Ings can get you goals. It's just whether he can keep him fit. Like he picks up a few niggles here and there. The 2 seasons where he played fully for Southampton, he got 22 and 22. And the way I go on about the 20 goal mark, that it's so rare, but that's the potential that he can be. So you keep him fit because he played both games or both seasons. He played 38. He came on as sub for 6, but he pretty much featured in every game, and he got 22 in each. If they can get him for most of the season and he's hitting the 20 goal mark, Villa, it'll be Jack Hu. And no disrespect to Jack, because obviously Danny Ings is bringing more goals than Grealish is. So that's how important keeping him fit is going to be for me. And then if Ollie Watkins can catch fire and maybe even play together, like, seeing 2 up front last night with Wood and Barnes, I still think there's a home for it, and they could cause real problems. Like one's full of pace, and Ings is the sniper who kind of is in the right place at the right time. So yeah, we'll watch this space. Yeah.
Brighton don't need 2 up front, Neil. Not when you have a rejuvenated Duffy in the side. It's an amazing turnaround, isn't it? To be left out of his plans, to be sent to Celtic, to fall apart up in Celtic, whatever it was for. I think there was personal reasons they're talking about, but to come back, to get your place back in the team, and then have 2 man of the match performances. And Brighton are 2 for 2 in the top 4, thinking about Champions League already. It's a mad turnaround.
It's one of these things. If you could talk to Potter and say what changed, because last season he was frozen out completely. It was like Potter arrived in and went, "You're not my type of centre half." He changed personnel, shipped him out. He goes to Celtic, has an absolute nightmare. Like, let's be honest, you're talking a couple of standards below where you're playing at to begin with. And he couldn't even get into the Celtic team after a while. He was a car crash.
And I could see comments in Celtic fans groups and all begging that Duffy wouldn't start. So, there was really no one on his side.
Yeah, it's horrible, really. Look, you can have a move, and for whatever reasons, be it travel, be it homesick, be it surroundings, whatever it is, be it that you arrive at a club and you think to yourself, I'm in trouble here. I don't know what it could be, but you'd love to know Graham Potter's reason for recalling him and then restoring the faith. Like, what has he done over the summer to change his mind? But whatever he's done, it's great for Ireland. It's great for Brighton. His header was an absolute peach. Come in off both bars, and it's just great to see Duffy back playing ball. And you know what I mean? We're not blessed. Dave was talking about all the Newcastle centre backs and whatnot there, and he didn't even mention Clark, who actually didn't get a game the other day. But there's Duffy back in the limelight now. He's grabbed this opportunity. He's off to a great start, and from an Irish perspective, we badly need him playing well.
Yeah, and that's just around the corner. Dave, Leeds and Everton, it's another one you probably would have put in your coupon, the old X for your 3 points, but 2-2 draw. For both, it's a decent point, but for Everton, it's just given them that little momentum, a few results starting off in the season, and that bit of belief that exactly what Benitez needed, and it might even give the board that sort of, not kicking the arse, but that want to go out and spend something, maybe to get a little bit more this season before the transfer window ends.
Exactly, and just to follow up on the very last bit you said there, the fact that one of his boys played well yesterday in is it Demarai or Damari? Damari Gray played well. Shame about his knee slide. It failed miserably. His knees barely touched the ground, and I love it. It just makes me so happy. And they try and style it out, and it's just like wah, wah. But he's playing well. Jesus, pace is lethal once or twice when he really got the legs going. But it was a nice finish. So that's always good when a manager brings in a player and they look strong and they look like they're a good addition. Everyone else that's been there and done it going, oh, what's this fella going to bring? Like Calvert-Lewin looks lively. He was having a great battle with Cooper yesterday. I think it was a fair play. But Leeds, first game back in the full crowd. You knew they were going to be bang at it. And it was a bit of a battle, and it was one of them where usually Everton could wilt before, because they've always been accused of being very inconsistent, and that's the type of game they could have wilted. But they stood up and were counted. The Curry and Allen had a bit between their teeth as well, but there definitely was a bit of a collective, like they were up for it, and they were definitely bang at it, and that could really just give them a bit of a jolt to kind of rally behind them more. And as you said, the board as well, considering the likes of Gray, Sean yesterday.
Yeah. Is there anyone out there, and I'll put this question to the two of you, and whoever gets in first can jump in there, but is there anyone out there that you think that would be a good purchase for any club out there? There's always those type of players out there that you think, look, there you go, Jesse Lingard for Manchester United. As you said, Dave, he probably won't get in this season with Manchester United. He'll probably get his little bits here and there, and Solskjaer may very well say, listen, he's in my plans, but he may be in his plans to bring him in for League Cups and, meaningless games, but not the way he was with West Ham. Anyone out there you think that could look to get a move next week and could make a difference to someone?
Any player at Arsenal, But I suppose it won't happen, but there's rumours of Basuma to a lot of clubs, but the likes of himself to an Arsenal, or the likes of Ndidi, that type of player who is box to box, full of energy, never stops. And in it, the contract will be a step up. So you'd like to think he'll bring it and don't just settle like a lot of players do. But that would be the type of player that could work for an Arsenal to try and remotely get a bit of an answer and drag the others along with them. But as regards to top boys, their business is as good as it's done. Like, unless for some reason Dortmund were to, all right, we'll let them go for 100 because it's 60 or 70 million is the buyout clause next year. Unless somebody like that. So the big boys are finished. So it is the likes of your Leicester, Everton, I suppose Spurs, Arsenal down. Like, apart from the current top four, as in last year's top four, down, there's definitely room for improvement without a shadow of a doubt. But for me, it's hard to kind of stick out straight away, other than the likes of them kind of players to fit into somewhere like an Arsenal, because Arsenal are in real trouble. Like, as in, it could be another year without European spots. So that's who I'd be looking at if I was a desperate Arsenal fan.
Okay. Right. We'll leave it there. Neil, I'll let you answer that question next week because we're going to be just on the transfer line where the week, this last Sunday, and then the transfer window ends. So we'll have to look closely this week and see who's likely to move. Rumours will be hyped out of all proportions next week. So we'll have a good look at that on next Sunday's show. Thanks to everyone who listened in and looked in tonight. Do subscribe. Do share as much as you possibly can for us. And David and Neil, also, thanks very much. I'm going to end this broadcast now. And I think my fingers